Hello, and welcome to an airless episode of the Drywall Podcast. I am your host, once again, Nick Harmon. With us today, Chris Bush of CBDrywall talks about coming up early with a man named Bill Miracle out of Coopersville, Pennsylvania. We discuss his knowledge of the auto body profession and how he holds auto body projects close to his heart. But we also do a deep dive into FH and find out why he shelved the idea for several years before even trying it.
Cool. Yeah.
And then you had some problems with that. The customer came in and maybe helped you out a little bit.
Yeah, she was an artist, and she wanted to do some herself on the same wall that I was doing, and it didn't match. I told her to hang a painting where she played with it.
Chris is a sharp young finisher, and I enjoyed talking with him about Fresco Harmony, Drywall, and beyond. Be sure to continue listening all the way to the end because Chris turns this interview on its head and the interviewee becomes the interviewer. When he asks me how I came up in the trade and a few questions about Fresco Harmony, it's a great interview and I hope you enjoy it. Guests of the Drywall Podcast, like Chris, will receive a sweet swag bucket from our friends at CSR, filled with all kinds of awesome drywall goodies for your drywalling pleasure. This episode of the Drywall Podcast is brought to you by Fresco Harmony. Fresco Harmony, making walls better since 2004. You can find Fresco Harmony products at locations such as L&W Out West Drywall Supply, the Drywall Supply Yard in Montrose, Colorado. If you're in Canada, you can find it at CSR. Or if you're in England or the UK, you can get it at GWI Ltd. You can also find it online at www.frescoharmony.com. But for now, Chris Bush on the 90th episode of the Drywall Podcast. Let's get into it. CBDrywall, Chris Bush.
It's CBD drywall, but yes, thank you. Yes, Chris.
CBDrywall?
CBD drywall.
How old are you, Chris?
I'm 28 years old.
All right, you're pretty young. And I've been trying to wrangle you for a little while. Kevin was talking about maybe letting you do some Fresco Harmony before having you on the show. I was like, that's not a bad idea. I don't really care if people, do it or don't do it. Obviously, I want to sell the product. I think it's a good product, but you have done a couple of Fresco Harmony jobs. Is CBDrywall, is that your business?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So 28 years. And then how long have you been in the trade? Probably just all your life, right?
2014. So I graduated high school in 2014.
Okay.
I delivered pizzas during high school. And then, I worked at a railroad for a summer. Then I did stucco for part of that same summer.
Nice.
And winter came and you can't do stucco in the winter, so I was looking for a job and I was like, let's give drywall a try.
Right.
And after doing stucco for a summer, drywall is like a vacation. It's like the easiest job ever compared to stucco.
Yeah, stucco seems really hard. But I mean, Kevin was all involved in the drywall and all of that all throughout. So I mean, weren't you inclined to go drywall, or you're like, he's done that, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to try pizza delivery and anything except for drywall.
Well, my brother did drywall after he graduated. And I was like, well, my brother did it, my dad did it, let's give it a try. And,
Okay.
It's very similar to body work. And I went to school for body work.
Right.
It's thing, except without all the chemicals that kill you,
Right.
it's a lot better for you. So,
And just for our listeners, when Chris says body work, he's talking about auto body. Yeah. Yeah. And where are you at with the podcast? Do you listen to them? Are you indifferent? Do you like them?
I listened to Lee Goldman's podcast,
Yeah.
because I know him personally.
Yeah.
Uh, and I listened to the highlights of my dad's, but I haven't listened to my dad's yet. Um,
They're not that good.
I mean, I listened to Joe Rogan.
Oh, okay. J-Wall one's pretty good. There's some good ones, man. Myron Ferguson's pretty good. Your dad's, bless his heart, they're pretty good. He's a good conversationalist, and we have good energy. But let's go back 28 years. You graduated from high school 2014, delivering pizzas, doing the stucco. Uh, Summer comes to an end. We got fall, and you're in Montana, Three Forks, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. And Chris is like, I'm going to give drywall a try. What's your first step?
Well, it was right after Christmas 2014. There was this guy, he's an older gentleman named Bill Miracle, out of Coopersburg, Pennsylvania, and he's been doing a drywall business for a long time. My dad used to sub off of him, and he has a full-time patch man, and I basically got in with him, doing 100 sheets or less, um, hand finishing, all hand finishing. Would not let me bring a bazooka on the job. Would not let me bring a flat box on the job.
Yeah, but you were new. You were new, right? You didn't know how to run those tools.
No, but I have my dad yelling at me every day. Why are you doing anything? It's so slow. You got to get it done so you can get paid. Uh, and, yeah, it's a different world when you're doing patches hourly.
Yeah. Yeah. Take your time. Make them look good.
Exactly.
And also, I wouldn't bust out the bazooka for anything smaller than, X amount. I mean, I would use a banjo for smaller things. It had to be like a garage or something that's going to warrant me cleaning the tool. That was about my only criteria with the tools. Um, okay, so would you say you had drywall knowledge prior to getting this job? And you weren't in Pennsylvania, you were in Montana, correct?
I was in Pennsylvania.
You were in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I was in Pennsylvania. No, I had no drywall knowledge at all. Zero.
Okay. And Kevin was still like, dude, take these tools to work and go learn them.
Yeah,
Okay.
basically.
All right. He was probably anxious. He was probably anxious for you to cut your teeth and get to going on the drywall.
Yeah. So I knew nothing about drywall. I remember the first day at work, we were doing patches. It was water damage. I didn't even know what joint tape was. He had
Okay.
me pre-filling the first day, and my dad was like, "Oh, how was your first day?" I was like, "I was pre-filling." He's like, "You didn't tape anything?" I'm like, "What's tape?" So
Yeah.
yeah, I knew nothing. I knew nothing at all.
Sure. And but you didn't like go and work for your dad at all during like your youth? You were like, screw it. I don't want to work with that guy. I'm just gonna play and have fun and do my own thing and
Well, I was like,
no drywall knowledge, even though you had a father that was in drywall.
nothing.
How,
No, nothing.
how old are you at this time when you get this job in Pennsylvania? Like
19.
you graduate high school. Okay, so you bounced around maybe pizza delivery for a couple months, stucco for a few months, and then you're like, screw it, I'm going to drywall.
Yeah. Yep.
So prior to that, though, we're moving backwards a little bit. You said you went to auto body school.
Yeah, so during high school, I went to Berks Career Technology Center in Ole, Pennsylvania,
Okay.
and learned auto body. I excelled. I wasn't very good in school because I didn't apply myself, but in tech school, I really applied myself and learned a lot. And I still have that knowledge now.
Cool.
Um, Yeah.
I have an affinity for auto body. My dad would paint cars. He Bondo, and he had all the tools. And back in the day, he was self-taught. But my uncle ran an auto body shop in Walla Walla, Washington.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, for years and years and years. So my dad kind of had some knowledge around auto body, but I never got to do it. But it always seemed cool, you know what I mean? It just seemed like like a much more fine touch than painting, regular painting.
Yeah. But the thing about bodywork is nothing hides. When it's out in the sunlight, especially your darker colors, nothing hides. Your bodywork's got to be really good. Um,
Yeah.
you'll see any little imperfection. So,
And how many cars, trucks, whatever, would you say that you've painted? I've seen some of your work on social media and it's phenomenal. It looks amazing.
I don't know. I'd have to sit and think, but at least 15 overall paint jobs.
Cool.
And as far as like in tech school, that's not counting in tech school. In tech school, a lot.
Okay.
In tech school, is mostly panel painting,
Okay.
not so many overalls. So,
And is this something you do on the side still today?
yes.
So buddy comes up, I drive my truck up there. Uh, I trade you maybe some Fresco Harmony training and some product, and you paint and we paint the truck.
Yeah, if you help me sand it down.
Okay, yeah, I'd help you do the whole thing, man. Yeah, it'd be cool. I'd love to learn more about auto body. But my Toyota Tacoma, it's like a 2015, and it's got, nicks and gouges and dings all over it. And the hood is completely oxid. It's like faded and oxidized, and also the roof because of the sun down here kills it.
We can fix that right up.
Cool. That'd be so fun, man. Yeah, we'll keep that in touch. That would be worth it, man. Drive up there. Wait till you get like a big fresco job. Drive up there. I'll help you with the fresco job, and then we paint the truck on the side. That'd be cool.
It sounds good. Yeah.
I'm just brainstorming, man.
Yeah, I got everything here to do it, except I don't have a MIG welder or a plasma cutter out here. I sold those things when I moved out here, but I have all the.
We I would imagine just a little bit of Bondo. I don't have any major body work to be done. A little bit of Bondo, sand it down, reshoot it, you know.
Sounds
Pick
good. Yeah.
pick like a cool color, pick something really sweet.
Door jams take a while. It's door jams are a whole thing. But if you're not doing door jams and there's not a lot of body work, you can get it done pretty quick.
We could also do the existing color too. Like then that way you don't have to worry about the door jams, right? You keep it with
Yeah.
the same get the same color code.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, that stuff just kind of interests me. So you get out of school, why don't you're saying it's because of toxicity that you don't get a job in the auto body field. You're like, it's a little much.
That and I had a lot of friends who did the same program, and I had friends who were older than me who did the same program, and they all got into doing cars for a living, and now they all hate cars. I don't want to hate cars. So
Okay. That's
yeah,
smart. That shows a lot of intelligence, being able to pick and choose like what you want to do versus being a slave to necessity for money or whatever. And we'll get into the drywall here in a bit. But so you're doing drywall now. People will come to you with side projects and you're happy to like, paint a car or something.
yeah.
Do you have like a going rate for that?
Depends what kind of mood I'm in and how much
Yeah.
work.
How much you like the person.
Like I have one I'm doing this summer for one of the builders that I build for. His foreman wants his truck painted.
Okay.
I'm gonna do his. So I told him like, yeah, the price is gonna vary. If you want the same
Yeah.
color, I have to do door jams, and you're gonna help me sand it down, and it'll be a lot cheaper than if I have to do everything. So
Oh, okay.
it's
So
all
let's give a theoretical price point for something like we're talking with the Toyota or that your boss's truck, same color code that you can get from the manufacturer, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So you get the
So,
same color code.
you just call up a paint shop and they'll mix it for you.
Okay. And then don't have to do door jams. You're gonna fix all the little dings, sand it down, reshoot it. What are we looking at all in for a job like that? And they don't help you sand.
Probably depending on how much body work, probably about 2,000 plus materials, something like that.
Okay. So 2,500, maybe 25 to
Material,
3,000.
yeah, probably closer to 3,000. Materials are more than you would expect.
Oh, I'm sure nowadays, yeah. Even house paint's ridiculous. So very cool. Okay, so you get ready to do drywall. You're working for what was the name of the company that you started with doing patching?
Bill Miracle Drywall.
Like Miracle Grow?
Yeah, like Miracle. Like it's going to take a miracle to get this job done. Miracle.
It's going to take Bill Miracle to get this job done, apparently.
Yeah, he would take on some projects that were pretty intense sometimes. I mean, fixing plaster with horsehair in it, all sorts of crazy stuff.
Oh, cool, cool. But that was kind of down your eye. That was right down your alley.
Yeah.
And having the background with the Bondo and working with auto body, would you say that was a huge asset? And then once you get your hands into some mud, you're like, oh, I could do this all day long.
Yeah, and joint compound is so much easier to work with.
Yeah,
It does what you want. It's very easy.
yeah, yeah. You're preaching to the choir there, buddy.
Yeah, it's
Love
so
joint compound.
yeah. Because I
Uh,
go and I'm trying to get the cement on smooth, and my boss keeps yelling at me. He's like, "Oh, you can't play with it. You just got to get it on." And like I was struggling, but then joint compound just does exactly what you want. And even some of the plasters are easy to work with. The plasters, the more you work with them, the nicer they get. Whereas the joint compound, you keep playing with it, you're gonna mess it up. You just get it on there, and then it does what you want right away.
yeah, and have you had a lot of experience with plasters, various plaster systems?
A lot of fixing plaster on the East
Okay.
Coast, in Montana. Use decent amount of gypsylite. Um, Gypsylite's pretty fun to work with.
Gypsylite. I don't think I've even heard of it.
So gypsylite, it comes in a big bag like Kwikset, but a bigger bag, and it has aggregate in it, and you mix it up with just water, but it doesn't set like Kwikset. It sets like plaster, and for windows where they're real rounded, you can put your wire mesh in there like you're doing stucco. You
Okay.
know, put your tar paper, and then you wire mesh, and then you play with the gypsylite, and it does really well adhering to old horsehair plaster, and then you
Cool.
compound over that.
Right, right. We if it's something like because we have plaster repair in New Mexico quite a bit too. I'll use Structilite. Do you guys have you messed around with that stuff?
I have not. It might be the same stuff. I'm not sure. I've never
Just
used it.
kind of sets up hard and heavy, like, and you can build it out. It's very structural. Like you can build it pretty, and go really thick, inches thick
That's
without it cracking.
probably the same product then. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so you're with Bill at Miracle Grow Drywall. How many employees does he have at that time?
Subcontractors. He's got
Okay.
big hanging crews, big finishing crews, and then he's got Tim and I were like quality control and patch people. We'd go check the other guy's work.
Yeah,
Um,
but you weren't quality control when you started. We're jumping ahead a little bit. I want to go through like what you learned, how you learned. He was having you doing pre-fill to start, but then what did you graduate into? Did you have a mentor there that took you under their wing to show you the ropes?
yeah, that was Tim Moats. He taught me a lot. All hand finishing, and yeah, I mean, I was taping the second day. Um,
Okay.
very first day I was pre-filming, but yeah, I was taping, hanging. Not so much hanging. He had me more focused on being a craftsman with
Yeah,
taping. And it's
yeah.
all smooth wall on in Pennsylvania. It's all smooth wall for the most part.
Okay.
So he taught me to be a real good hand finisher. Um, so yeah,
So you're learning proper smooth finish, but they don't use the tools, or they do use the tools. They just don't let you use the tools right away.
so the production guys would use banjos,
Okay.
flat boxes, no angle tools, which I don't understand because the angle tool is the biggest time saver and does such a good job.
Yeah.
Uh, but they would use flat boxes and banjos. Um,
Okay.
I haven't seen anybody in Pennsylvania use bazooka
Okay.
personally. So yeah, it's
Okay.
all handwork for the most part.
So to our bazooka manufacturers out there, there might be a market in Pennsylvania. Got to go out there and do a little tour and show these guys how to use a bazooka.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, Colorado too. The dudes that I worked with, they used a banjo. They'd bust out the bazooka if they wanted to make money, but you know, And then on the podcast, we're getting some of these slot box people coming into focus. A lot of slot box people.
I
Uh,
get enough mud on me when I'm doing ceilings with a bazooka. I can't even imagine how much you get on you with a slot box.
I've never done it.
That's interesting. Do they like tie it to them, or do they pull it into a bucket and then use the bucket?
More will
Uh,
be revealed, man. I gotta like see what the heck they're doing.
Changes of clothes do they bring with them?
I don't know. Those are all very good questions, though, that I'm gonna have to.
Might be like a 3 shirt day if you're using a slot box.
Yeah, or just have a slot box shirt that you wear for that, or a big like apron, you know.
At the end of the day, stand up in the corner.
Yeah. Very cool. So how long would you say that it took you to get proficient working with Bill and Tim to get to where you were like more reputable on their team? What would you say that timeline was?
Year and a half.
Okay. So a bit. And were they paying you okay over there?
The wages in Pennsylvania for drywall are not ideal.
Okay. But you were like, screw it. I'm gonna drywall. You must have liked it.
It was the same thing as body work. It was okay. Never a fan of painting with a roller or a sprayer. I like
Hmm.
painting cars, but as far as the actual mudding and taping process, I enjoy that. It's not bad.
Okay. Yeah, it's not too bad. You're still doing it today, so there you have it. And how long did you spend with this company in Pennsylvania? I guess there's at some point you went from Pennsylvania back to Montana.
Yeah, so I was with Bill for about 3.5 years.
Okay, cool. And after that, you're like, okay, well, I know how to do this. I'm gonna go start my own business.
Kind of. So Heath, my cousin Heath Jimerson,
Yeah,
he called me and he's like, "Oh man, you got to get out here to Montana. There's a ton of work." So I
yeah.
came out here in July of 2018 to check it out, and he was right. There's a decent amount of work out here.
And
Uh,
good, probably a little better pay.
the wages are so much better here.
Yeah, but cost of living is more there as well, right?
It's debatable. Yeah, stuff is more expensive here, but I feel like that's kind of everywhere at this point in time. I feel like that's not specific to my location.
Okay. Okay. Um, and if your buying power is better, let's talk about Heath a little bit. I need to get him on the show too. He was a drywaller before becoming a contractor, correct?
I'm not that old. I don't know, man.
Okay.
He's been a
Yeah.
general for a long time,
Okay.
but he knows how to do just about everything construction related.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, he's kind of a jack of all trades, but he's better than a jack of trades in finishing. He's a journeyman finisher for sure.
Okay, okay. Yeah, he's done some fresco. It looks fabulous. And so he was like, come out and work for me in Montana, or come out and start your own business, and then I'll sub some of my drywall out to you.
Well, it was basically a working vacation. Just come out here and work, have fun,
Yeah.
and check it out, see if you like it.
Okay.
And I did do a couple jobs with him. As soon as I got here, took a while for my bazooka to get here in the mail, but as soon as my tools got here, I had the basement I did with him.
Yeah.
So
Was Kevin doing drywall still at that time?
nah, he
No,
stopped late 90s.
late 90s. So he had stopped for quite a while.
Yeah.
All right. So you're out there, you're doing some work for Heath, and then you're like, screw it, I'm gonna stay. There's plenty of work out here. I'm going to start my own business and do this legit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. And how'd you come up with CB Drywall? Just Chris Bush.
So someone else, one of my dad's friends came up with the name and I was like, yeah, CBD. That sounds pretty cool,
Yeah.
pretty memorable, easy to say. So yeah, CBD drywall stuck.
Okay. All right. All right. Very cool. Um, and how long ago was that?
What that CBD drywall was started?
Yeah, was that shortly after you went to work with Heath in 2018?
That was in 2019. I started CBD drywall. So I went back to Pennsylvania
Okay.
in November of 2018 for some family stuff, and then came back out in July of 19. So
That was right before COVID. Were you pretty happy to get back and sort of be home, quote unquote, before COVID hits?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And then was that nervous for you to start your own business? There's a lot that goes into that.
Not really. No,
Not to,
my whole family basically out here. My family that lives out here in Montana, they all run their own businesses, so they kind of gave me some pointers,
yeah.
told me what to do, and
You
wasn't too
had
bad.
good support. So
Yeah,
you've got Kevin. What's your brother's name?
Justin.
Is that it? And then
Uh,
Heath, I guess, is your uncle.
he's my cousin,
He's your cousin.
and then he has a sister who lives out here, and she runs a custom home building business. She's been out here for a long time. And
I think I've
then
heard of her. What is it? What is her business name?
a big house and homes,
Say that again.
a big house and homes.
That's
That's
right. It's a weird name.
yeah.
Like
Um,
it sounds German.
Probably is. Yeah.
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 And then Heath and her dad moved out here and he lives out here now too. And he's still doing construction. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool. A whole gaggle of you guys up there, man. I want to come up there and see it. I'm going to be driving through Boise. It's a little out of the way, though, to jump over there. And I've got a small window in BC. So I probably won't make it over there this time, but I do want to come up there. I need to come up there just for a private trip to come see you guys and do some filming and stuff. I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah. It'd
Yeah.
be nice if you could get up here when I was running the tools or something.
Yeah.
Um, that'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So you start CBD drywall and COVID hits. Is that like horrible for you, or you've got enough support that it was okay? You were able to hunker down and weather the storm,
It wasn't too bad here in Montana.
right?
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. Mask mandates weren't even that strict.
Yeah, you guys kept working. I worked through it, but I was like kind of rebellious. I was like, well, is anybody going to be on the job? You know, um, but we kind of kept rolling, but nobody was like on the job, kind of like that.
Yeah, we kept rolling too, but it wasn't like some homeowners, because I do a lot for homeowners, some homeowners wouldn't want to be home when I was there, and
Right.
it was a little weird, but
Yeah.
it was fine.
Yeah.
As far as it goes, it slowed up a little bit, but nothing crazy.
Okay. Good. Good. And I guess fast forward to more recently, I had sent you a sample pack like 4 years ago, maybe a long time ago.
I think it was pre-COVID.
It was pre-COVID. Like, did you request a sample pack?
Yeah, yes, I did.
So you were like, oh, this is cool. We've got some color joint compound. Maybe you've had some experience with other plaster systems. You were going to try it, but it just sat on a shelf over there.
Pretty much. Yeah, I was living
Okay.
in a trailer house at the time, and there was one room with drywall in it, and I was gonna play with it, but I just never did. Um,
Yeah.
and then I kept seeing you on social media, and I was like, yeah, let's give this a try. So that was when I called you.
What was
Called
the inspiration though for that phone call and that was when I met Kevin. I think it was you and Kevin and maybe one other person was on the phone.
Keith was there.
Heath was there, that initial phone call.
Yeah, no, I
Interesting.
try it out. I like the cool stuff as far as auto body painting. Like I like the marbleizer paint and the custom candy paints and
Yeah.
gold flake and all that stuff. So I was like, yeah, this is something cool for drywall. Let's try it out.
Right. I like that pearlescent like car paint that you see like on the Cadillac SUVs. You know what I'm talking about? It's
Yeah.
like kind of like, as the sun hits it, it kind of like flashes purple down the side.
Yeah, that's most likely a pearl that you put
Yeah.
in clear coat.
So cool. So
Mhm.
cool. Um, oh, just like so that would be just like fresco. It's like a sheen over the top of the paint.
Yeah,
Like it
exactly.
gives it like a shimmer. That's cool. Would you say that that's similar to Fresco Harmony, like the body paint, like when you do a clear coat over the top of your actual color, do you always clear coat when you do body paint?
If you're using base coat, clear coat, you do. If you're using single stage, you typically don't. Single stage has clear coat mixed in with the color,
Okay,
but most modern paint is base coat, clear coat. Um,
right.
yeah, it gets clear coat.
And the clear coat's just durability, right?
So it's UV resistant. Um, and when you get scratches, typically the scratches are just in the clear, so you can buff them out.
Okay,
Uh, and it gives it some shine.
okay. So, so what was the inspiration for that call? Did you have a job that you wanted to try the fresco on? Was it Kevin's remodel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Very cool. So he was like, I want to do some plaster type stuff on my house.
Oh, he knew nothing about it. He knew
Right,
nothing. So
right.
yeah,
So
his whole house
he
is
was
skip.
skeptical. He was kind of skeptical.
Yeah, yeah, his whole house is skip trowel, and he was like, and then he found out about it. He's like, yeah, let's do some of
Because skip trowel, as we know, I mean, if you're doing another plaster system, you would have to smooth out that damn ugly texture before doing fresco or before doing anything.
it. Yeah,
Were there other plaster systems that you were considering, and did you use on Kevin's project?
not really. No,
Not
there's
really.
work. It's too much work. It's a lot of troweling.
Well, I don't know. I mean, because there's various systems. You've got like micro cement, you've got marmarino, you've got all of these different types of plasters. What systems have you used?
Just fresco.
Just Fresco. I thought you said earlier in the interview that you had maybe worked with different plaster systems, or maybe that was just for patching in
Just
Pennsylvania.
just patching, just fixing stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Have you used Fresco Harmony for patching plaster yet?
No, there's not much plaster out here in Montana.
Oh,
Nothing.
right.
Not much of it's that old. Most of it's drywall for the most part.
Okay. All right. It works really well. Like Bill Miracle. Like there's a couple colors that were like, Hidalgo brown, Westbrook tan, Dyrene candy. Like those three colors, you can sort of mix them together. And then with the sealers, you can like match plaster. It's crazy.
Nice.
Yeah. And I mean, there could be good money in that, but a lot of times if the person has a patch that's bad enough, I'll just like, let's just reskim the wall in fresco. You
Definitely.
know,
Yeah.
who cares? Because you can go right over the existing plaster. So you get to play with Fresco Harmony for the first time. Walk me through your experience there.
It was super easy. The hardest part was making the first coat not perfect. That's the hardest
Right.
part. Leaving imperfections on the first coat, leaving lap marks and stuff. Um, but yeah, the first one I did mountain clay for the base coat, and then I did a green. I forget which green it was, but I went over it with green. Yeah, it was Minkus Pine. And then I did gloss sealer over that, and it was really cool. You could see the mountain clay peeking through. It was really nice.
I know, but it was like the Mountain Clay is a double color pack and the Minkus Pine is a signature color. My only criticism with that is like you waste all this money on the base coat that you hardly even see except for like some lines coming through, but I'm sure it looked cool.
It looked really cool. Yeah.
And then you had some problems with that. The customer came in and maybe helped you out a little bit.
Yeah, she was a artist, and she yeah, she wanted to do some herself on the
Okay.
same wall that I was doing, and yeah, it didn't match. I told her to hang a painting where she played with it.
Right. To be kindly, it didn't match. Now, did you suggest, and you would have lost all of your mountain clay peaks, but you could have reskimmed the whole wall with Micus Pine
I could
and
have, but she didn't want that. She wanted to see the Minkus Pine coming through.
the mountain clay coming through
Oh
the
yeah,
Micus. Yeah.
yeah, she see the mountain
And
clay.
then you used regular gloss sealer on that?
I believe so. Yeah, that was a while ago, but I'm pretty sure I used gloss on that.
Yeah, it was a little while ago. It turned out cool. And then from there, Kevin starts to get a little addicted to fresco. Like he gets a taste. This is the common progression, and you did a little bit. You were like, oh, that's easy enough. I could do a whole room. Like whatever. Right? I mean, am I right? It's like I could have done this whole like, space for, maybe an accent wall is like $700. Dude, I'll do the whole room for 2000, like whatever.
Yeah,
That's where my brain goes.
it's easy if you're experienced with joint compound.
Yes.
I don't think anybody could just do it, but
No.
if you're a finisher, yeah, it's easy for sure.
It's skimming walls. And you're right. The hardest part was leaving the base coat a little heavier so you get that modeling
Yeah.
color variation type thing. Very cool. What was the next project after that one?
Uh, I think I think I did accent wall in my dad's house. It was a ceiling. It was a tray ceiling. It was
Yeah.
gas pearl with gold sealer.
Yeah.
And then I went and did one in Four Corners, Montana. That was a brown color. I don't remember what it was. It was a brown color with gloss sealer.
Now,
And
was that a paying client?
yeah, I was paying client.
Okay. And how did you get that job?
So I did the drywall finishing in the whole building, and then showed them fresco, and they wanted a couple accent walls here and there.
Okay,
So I
so
did,
they maybe wanted some fresco or some accent walls in a specialty finish, and then
yeah,
you had sample boards that you could that were they ready that you could show them and maybe the color chart?
yeah,
Okay. I mean, these are important questions because I get a lot of like, how do you sell it? And I'm always like, dude, you got to make a sample board, you know. And you recently have been busting some sample boards. I think that's key. I think having multiple colors, 5 or 6 sample boards kicking around in your truck,
Yeah,
and
so
color charts.
when I do fresco, I just take the leftover material and I use 1/4 inch drywall 'cause it takes up less space and
Yeah,
samples with it. And I have a big plastic tote that I keep the samples in and I show them to prospective clients.
there you
So
go. And have you tried the Masonite yet?
what's the masonite?
It's like thin
Like plywood?
bat. Yeah, kind of like plywood, but really thin. They'll use it for shelving sometimes. We've got a couple videos where people are using Masonite for samples. Brawley's dad, Sean Ramsden, did a sample, and then he masked off the edges. It looks really clean and sharp.
Idea.
Yeah, he masked off like a 1 inch around the interior so your edges aren't getting banged up, and it just makes a color pop.
That's a very good idea.
Yeah. But nice sample. And then it's super lightweight, very durable, unlike sheetrock that might, you pull it out on a client's, you know, $10,000 dining room table and you're shedding drywall dust all over their kitchen. It kind of looks ghetto versus, nice piece of masonite. It's true though, right?
Oh, you're 100% right. I've definitely come across that problem.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I was using drywall for a long time, but then they kept getting banged up and they would shed, and then finally I graduated to the masonite, and it works really good. But in that instance, on that project, you showed them sample board, you showed them color chart, they picked a color, you ordered the color, you gave them a price point, everybody was happy.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, cool, cool. And what's your method for, are you continuing to sell it? Are you trying to sell it? Are you content just like head down, do drywall, get paid?
I'm trying.
Um,
I want to get more into doing fresco than production.
yeah,
Production's, it's a lot of moving fast.
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I would like to just do fresco and then paint cars in the summer.
Right, right. And I think too, there's a misconception that you just jump into plaster and you're going to make all this money. And it's like, no, there's a process because people don't know. People are like, oh, it's plaster. They're instantly gun shy because they're used to paint and texture. They don't, and if anybody starts talking about plaster, it's like, oh, that's expensive. That's hard to achieve. You can't repair it. Like there, all of these things come up, whereas Fresco Harmony has, sort of solved those problems. And I feel like it's an easier sell because of that, but it does take time to build up your client base. And then all of a sudden, this gal or this company where you did the fresco, somebody sees it and they're like, "What's that?" And then you get another job. Um, do a home show in your area, go do the tile. Maybe there's a tile shop in your area. Go do a couple walls in the tile shop in some different colors and put a sign up that says CBD dry Fresco Harmony by CBD Drywall.
Good idea.
We're not marketers naturally. I've been selling it for a long time, but these ideas, I'm interested in how you sold your jobs. Chad Hesser's podcast drops, and we talk a little bit about. He sells a lot of it, and this is where I think we can bring specialty wall finishes back into being the norm, because I think people are really hesitant right now and they're unsure. Paint's safe.
I have a little bit of issues selling it with a lot of people. I have a
Why?
builder.
Why do you think?
People just want texture and paint
Yeah.
here. I have a builder who wants some in his personal house. So I'm gonna do that, and hopefully he'll show it to clients, um, and hopefully I'll get a bunch of work that way. I think that'll help.
Yeah, for sure. And then that goes to back to like price point. like, hey, dude, you don't have to like charge through the moon. It's like you're getting X amount for doing drywall. Your prices probably have to be competitive because people will come in and compete with you on your drywall prices. But with Fresco, it gives you a little edge and you don't have to charge like these astronomical prices. You could be like, dude, extra $2,000 or extra $5,000 or whatever. We'll redo this, we'll do all of the kitchen,
Yeah,
just do
you
it.
don't have and you don't have to pay for paint.
And then you don't have to paint. You're putting an extra 5 grand in your pocket. He's getting specialty wall finish on a large amount of space. To me, it's a no-brainer. That's really the conversation with the builder. Hey, dude, this isn't going to affect your schedule. This isn't going to affect your budget. You get to upcharge the client, and it's going to make your projects stand out from your competitors,
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm interested in this conversation, how people sell and where I can be helpful, in selling. But yeah, it's just drywall, man. Where do you see, we've kind of talked about it. Where do you see CBD going in the future? Is this something that you're going to retire doing? Where do we
I don't.
see Chris Bush in the future?
I don't think I'm going to retire doing drywall. I don't think I'm going
Yeah?
to do this
Do
ever.
you have loftier aspirations?
Yes.
Like what?
I'm not sure yet. I don't know.
That's a good place to be, man.
I'm still pretty young.
Very young. 28 yeah, I started. I got 20 years on you, dude. Well, 20 years ago now. I was 28 years old. Um, yeah, a lot of trials and tribulations. Anything, we've got the pearl of wisdom, of course, that you could bestow upon the drywall community if you had one shot to deliver something valuable to drywallers worldwide, what would it be?
Drywallers aren't exactly the upper crust of society. We tend
Sure. We all know that, Chris.
we tend to get the lower crust felons.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I don't know if I have advice. I'm still pretty young. I don't know. I'm still learning. Uh,
I think you
just
do. You see, you're a pretty sharp guy. Just something maybe that you picked up along the way that you feel like would help maybe somebody getting into the trade or somebody that's been in the trade a while, maybe is a better question.
if you're working in a finished house, bring tarps and clean up after yourself.
Mm, love it. Don't be a pig.
Yeah.
Um, and then I another question I asked, it's kind of a fun one. Is there anything that you've learned, picked up over the years that you thought would not work, but has actually finally tried it and it works better than your old system and you use it like all the time now?
For a long time, I thought hand finishing was the only way because
Okay.
that's what I was taught. But the tools are fast. I didn't think you could get a quality finish with tools because the guys that I saw using them were not doing a good job. But
Yeah.
if everything's set up right, you can get a really good finish with tools.
What do you think was the thing that shifted the way you were thinking about that? I mean, obviously you were resistant to try the tools, but something happened that created you to be open not only to trying new things like Fresco Harmony, but to trying the tools. What was that thing?
Bigger
If you could,
job.
bigger job. Okay. You had a little bit more time. Next job you're on where maybe you're not backed up with another job or you've got these jobs stacked up and you have a little extra time. Go rent a set of Ames tools or whatever and try them out, right?
Yeah.
Like, or go watch some of the videos. Phil PRC, he's got a gaggle. Columbia has a gaggle of videos. Drywall Shorty has a gaggle of videos. All these
So
people are.
My favorite YouTuber for drywall is the Drywall Doctor, Ray Anderson.
Okay.
Sometimes
Why?
with Facebook, um, he he's a really good finisher. I like the way he does things. And the day before I tried my bazooka out, I watched his video how to use I think it's called how to tape with a bazooka fast and clean or something like that. I watched
Okay.
that video, and then the next day I ran the bazooka. Well, I walked the bazooka the next day. I didn't run it.
Yeah.
I walked it, and his video was very helpful.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. The journeyman, when you're learning the union, like they'll throw you into a closet or like a really hard area or something. I think it's like, dude, pick some gravy butts and bands to start running the bazooka. Don't, it's challenging enough. You don't need to make it any harder than it is. Learn to run it properly and then get fast.
And pre-fill,
Yeah.
pre-fill, pre-fill.
Now I've had this debate with some other people on the show, and I am kind of a slacker when it comes to pre-filling. I've never noticed any like, detrimental like thing about like if a house is pre-filled versus not pre-filled. What's the purpose in your mind, the importance of pre-filling? Why do you pre-fill?
So it doesn't crack in the future. Well, there's
Yeah,
might crack, so there's less of a chance of a
there's
crack.
less of a chance. And you
Make
probably
sure
get a lot of movement in Montana as far as like the ground freeze.
snow load, and it'll be 100 degrees in the summer, and this winter
Right.
it got down to like negative 50. So that's a 150-degree swing.
Yeah.
Stuff.
And move. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very cool. Chris Bush, CBD drywall out of Three Forks, not Twin Forks, Three Forks, Montana, with us on the Drywall podcast today. Thank you so much, sir.
Oh,
What'd you think?
before we
Yeah.
go, how did you get into drywall?
How did I get into drywall? You wanted to ask me that question?
Yeah, you're asking all the questions. I want to ask a couple questions.
Sure, sure. I think that's a fun twist on the show. I remember it exactly. I didn't have a job. I was out of college. I played college soccer. I had no clue what I wanted to do. And my mom's friend worked at a mobile home manufacturing plant. And I remember going into the plant and seeing everybody working and seeing the drywall dudes. And I was like, oh, that looks fun. Like just in my brain. And behold, unbeknownst to me, like the gods were like listening or something. That's the division I got put into. He may have asked, where would you like to work? It's like, oh, that looks pretty cool. And then
How
they
old
had
how old were you when that happened?
like 19, 20. And then they put me, I remember I worked with a guy named Jason Langman, and he was a good sort of teacher. And they finished everything with quickset, and they didn't finish the upper seams because the houses would move around the plant on air. And
Okay.
the drywall division like would finish the houses as they go down. And they'd finish like, 8, 7, 13 floors a day. These houses, like two full houses a day. These mobile homes. And um I did that for a while and I liked it. I liked working with the mud. I liked how fast the day went. And uh, I did that for a while, but the money kept getting smaller and smaller. Like they would cut in and cut in and cut in. And so this is an interesting story. One day, like I just quit. And this is like for all you people that like you don't have to work anywhere. Like I did like this weird life course and I got back to my job and I was like, what am I doing here? Like this is horrible. Like these people are not happy. And my stepdad was a superintendent for Turner Construction in Portland, Oregon at the time, and he knew people in the union. And he was like, "You should become an apprentice in the union, in the drywall union." I was like, "How do I do that?" And the very same day I left that job, I went. He gave me the phone number for Jack Huckins, PCI out of Portland. And I called the dude on the phone. No cell phones then. Like it was like I had to go home and call. And he said to go fill out you had to go fill out paperwork to be in the union. And I went and filled out all the paperwork. As I was walking in the door, same day I quit Fleetwood Homes. As I was walking in the door, the phone was ringing, no joke. And it was PCI. And they told me where to be the next day. I didn't miss one day. And I showed up with a plastic pan and on my first day as a union and jeans because they all wear whites in the union. And yeah, for about 6 months, I did nothing but clean tools and haul scaffold up and down. We were doing this big condo unit in the West Hills of Portland, downtown Portland.
I know
And
all about laboring. When I did stucco, I was a laborer, and yeah,
sucked.
moving around scaffold all day isn't ideal.
No, no, it was hard work. There was like one other person with me. I was a prima donna, because I knew how to spot screws and walk stilts and like spin outlets. So I knew everything. But they all kind of got a kick out of me. I was real cocky. Um, I partied a lot. I would show up right on time, which was frowned on. All the old guys would be sitting around, 15 minutes, 30 minutes before the day starts, and I'd roll in like right on time or 5 or 10 minutes late. And because of that in the union, you'll get laid off sometimes first, and that always pissed me off. And the rest is history, man. I did that for a year and a half, and we had to do a class once a week. And if you showed up to class and you had any mud or anything on your tools, they'd send you home and you wouldn't get credit for that class. And
Union
then
did play the union rules.
And those guys were good that I learned with them. I didn't know at the time, but we were working on large projects, Nike World Campus, Intel in Hillsborough, some of these big projects. They were very good finishers. And I was learning from these salty dogs that were really good. And I think only because I had kind of a cocky, fun personality, they liked me and they would teach me shit. But uh, I learned to get really good at finishing.
So you were never a hanger.
Mm-mm. No, the hangers did framing in the union over in Portland. I was a member of the local 360 union and I was an apprentice. And I made it clear to, they have percentages. I made it to 70% apprentice before I left and went to Arizona.
Nice. How old were you then?
23.
When did you decide to put some color and some joint compound?
The color into the joint compound happened at the union, and they busted out some colorant and plaster. And I was messing with the plaster, and I was like, "This is stupid. Like, why aren't they using joint compound?" Even back then, I wanted to use the joint compound. I didn't want to mess with the plaster, but I instantly made a mural of monkey head and all of the other because there's a tournament that the union apprentices take part in where they finish a unit, they get like graded on it, and you could win like this national contest. But one of the walls is like an accent wall where you can do something artistic or creative on it. And all of the other apprentices were really jealous because they knew they would never beat, because I was an artist, they knew they would never beat me at the accent, like artistic wall. And so, um,
Would you use on that?
and
What did you use as far as materials for the accent wall?
for the accent wall, I was using my very first piece. I still have it. It's called the monkey, and it's this giant monkey head that protrudes from the artwork, and that's made out of plaster. After that, I never used plaster again. I always used joint compound, and then I started creating art on pieces of drywall with colored mud. And I
Have you
did that. I was like, oh, I'm going to be a drywall artist and I'm going to make artwork and sell artwork. Like that was my epiphanal idea.
Nice. Have you ever considered putting color in quick setting compounds?
Yeah, and I have. I recently made, well, a long time ago, I made like the devil head. But anytime I wanted to do something three-dimensional, I would do like doing this 23 years ago. But I was adding color always and doing three-dimensional sculptural artwork with quickset and color. Yeah, it works just fine. The next question would be like, well, why don't you use quickset for Fresco Harmony?
That was the
And
next.
the answer is always because it goes off. I don't let now you have a time frame in which you have to use a medium, just like plaster. Your color's not going to be consistent because you don't have that measured unit. And for whatever reason, Ready Mix just colors consistently. It's paramount. People don't realize the importance of that little color pack, getting all the color out and the energy and like thinking that went into like, oh, I'm creating a color formula. And then early on, it was like, not only do I have to create a color formula, I have to create like, how do you seal it? I mean, there were so many, how do you apply it? There were so many questions, you know?
Okay. Another question. So all my old fresco that I have from different jobs is in buckets. And
Yeah.
gallery pearl, for some reason, turned into a paint consistency. It's not a mud anymore. It's like water. I still use
Yeah.
it because I'm ghetto and white trash. So I
Yeah,
still
I do too, man. I'm really frugal with my mud. Even though I can make as much as I want, I keep it. Like if I don't have to mix up another Galtiero steel and, like I had a little Galtiero steel saved in one of my because why waste a $12 box of mud? So I had some saved. It's kind of watery. I'm not sure why it does that. It does get watery, but it also molds too.
yeah, none of the other colors did that, but
Yeah.
the gallery pearl turned into it's like paint. And then why is it that with the Fresco Harmony, instead of getting 3 days out of the water before it smells horrible, why is it that after one day, the Fresco water that you use to clean your tools smells god awful after one day?
It's the sealer, dude. If you clean that sealer into your water, it instantly makes it smell. I don't know why that is.
Okay.
It's the sealer. Yeah, because I'll have sealer in my studio. Like if I wash my tools with the sealer one day, horrid.
Yeah, because I was doing an addition and it was this little office and it was summertime and I cleaned my tools
Yeah.
and I came back in a couple days later and it smelled really bad. It was
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah. So that's the sealer. The mud will smell, but it
Yeah,
takes a
it has an
it ta
interesting smell to it.
it takes a long time though. Like not a long time, but if I'm using even like kind of dirty water, like water that has a little bit of mud in it,
Yeah.
it'll get funky. It'll make that mud mold. That's why I don't put water on top of the mud when I keep it. I leave it dry and put a lid on it. Now, the Galtiero steel that I'm talking about, I have to go do a patch with it. I have enough to patch this little section that I need to patch on a job. It'll work fine. But I had to like scrape there was a little like layer of mold. Sometimes the mold's all the way through. You don't want to use that. And people will probably be like, oh, you shouldn't use mud with mold anyways. Um, okay, that's fine. It still works great for samples. Like, so I don't have to buy another $42 bottle of Fresco Harmony and another box of mud. I can keep a little bit of that color and the worst case scenario, I scrape off the mold and I can do a little repair with it or make a sample. Worst case scenario. And then if the person likes it and they want to do the job, toss it and mix another batch.
I'm just my brain, I go all around with my
Yeah, I
questions. But
like
have
it.
you noticed how different water makes quickset kick different? I just did a job here in Bozeman. It was 20-minute mud, took 45 minutes to set. And then 2 days later, I went to another job, was using 45-minute water or 45-minute mud, and it took 20 minutes to set.
Well, I
The
know
water,
that
huge
dirty
difference.
water, dirty water and hot water makes it set up quicker. I
I'm
know
not talking
that.
about dirty and hot water. When I mix quickset, I use clean water because I'm not an animal.
Okay.
But yeah, it different water makes it kick different, and then it has to do with if it's well water, city water. Uh,
Maybe. I
I don't
wouldn't
know.
know. That would be like a probably a question for the USG professionals, the chemists at USG. I wouldn't, I try to steer away from quickset, even if I'm doing like nail pop patches or whatever. I think it's more beneficial personally to just give it 2 days. If you're going to go and do patches, just give it 2 days. Let that fill coat, whether you're using quickset or ready mix, let it just dry all the way. Come back the next day and you can rush your second coats or sealer in the Fresco Harmony case.
Well, I learned with quickset, you want to coat it while it's still green before it's set all the way with regular mud. Otherwise, sometimes you'll get bubbles. If you let it dry 100% and you coat it with regular mud or more quickset, it'll bubble. That's what I was taught. Coat everything quickset and then coat it with regular mud before you leave if you're doing
Oh,
smaller
interesting.
jobs. That's the way I
Okay.
was.
Yeah, yeah. Different strokes for different folks, man. I just started using more. I mean, Jack, my guy, uses a lot of 5 minute. Like he'll really rush. He'll like really rush it 5 and 20 minute. And as challenging as they are to use, 20 minutes kind of cool. You can get through a patch pretty quick, because it'll set up and you can hit it with those two coats while it's still green. It's still curing, but it's hard enough that you can get that skim coat over it with your all purpose and then let that dry. Um, you know, yeah, that's a long conversation. I mean, I'm sure there's different methods for that. I'm always going into a Fresco Harmony patch. So in the instance that I'm talking about, the Galtiero ski, for whatever reason, the dog is like biting the wall, like in all over the house. Like, so I have all these weird patches. I would just skim that with my dirty Galtiero steel, make sure my edge is abstract, use a sponge, let it dry, make sure my edge is abstract, use a sponge so I'm not creating dust, sponge off that area, and then seal it. And when I seal a bigger area to try to disguise those cold joints because it'll want to flash just like plaster.
That's helpful because I'm doing a fresco patch right now, so I'll keep that in
Yeah,
mind.
they're tricky. And then another thing to do is I use match paint, and you could faux out with a rag. You can faux out the edge where that cold joint is. You can faux it out with match paint, like rub it, and that helps disguise it. You'll see it a little bit on the sheen, but when I go to do like a plaster patch with Fresco Harmony, I'll use the match paint, the colored mud, the sealer, like everything, in my arsenal to like, and then I think at that point it takes a good eye too to look at the color. You don't want to be colorblind when you got to do a plaster patch. I think that takes a lot of artistry.
Very cool.
Yeah. Good questions, dude.
Thank
Have
you.
you thought have you thought about starting up a podcast?
I
Nah.
don't have anything to talk about. Maybe when I'm older.
Yeah, maybe when you're older. That's funny. Yeah, so he's like such a talker, and then maybe you guys are a little bit different in that way.
I've learned to listen.
Yeah, that's smart.
Sometimes it's
Um,
better to listen because, especially when I was younger, I still do it sometimes. My mouth will get me into trouble. I'll say
sure.
it. So I've learned in the past couple of years to listen a little more.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
that's
hey,
more than the
Chris.
thing that comes to mind because that can be bad.
Well, I would say that that's also a pearl of wisdom.
No, thank you. Because you can listen all you want, but you can't take back what you said. You can apologize, but
Yeah.
doesn't take back what you said.
I love it. Chris Bush turning the Drywall podcast on its head and maybe asking the host how he got into the trade, a little bit about Mike's. I don't mind qualifying myself too. I mean, I haven't done drywall for a long time because I've been focusing on Fresco, but I've ran all the tools. I've not done the slot box.
Neither have I. I haven't done a banjo either. I just went right into bazooka.
Oh, I've done a lot of banjo. The dudes in Crested Butte that I work with, they did a lot of banjo. And so also the other part of that story is moving around. I learned to do drywall differently. Like you went Pennsylvania and also Montana. So I learned like Union Smooth Wall in Portland, went down and learned production in Sierra Vista, Arizona. And then I went up and worked with some ballers at a ski resort in Crested Butte, Colorado. And that's where we learned to do that base coat texture. Kind of like Drywall Shorty calls it the swirl, but we called it the Santa Fe texture in Colorado. And I was like, shoot, man, we're covering the whole wall with mud. Couldn't you color the mud? And
Yeah, it's a perfect question. I wouldn't have thought of that, but good question.
well, I was doing a plaster job in Crested Butte and I hated it. We got to do a plaster job. They had all the cute little trowels and they had like, it would go off and it wouldn't clean off of my tools. And I was like, why aren't they using the 6 inch to do all the detail work? Because plaster guys don't use like the 6 inch. And I was like, so that's why I use a hawk, a pool trowel, and a 6 inch. Like,
You don't use a pan and knife at all?
mm-mm.
See,
No,
I'm
because
all the way.
we were using, and I can. I'm like, if I'm running corner bead, I'll use a pan and knife. Or
Oh,
I'm really good with the trowel now, though, too. So if I went back to doing drywall, I would probably start using a square edge trowel to do like they do in Canada, those dudes that like run it out.
that's how
Um,
stuff is. You use a square. At
yeah,
least the guy who I worked with for, he used a square trowel and a board and cricket to put the cement on and the hawk.
yeah, yeah.
And the guy Tim who taught me, he used a hawk and a 4-inch knife, and he
Wow.
bent the hawk like an L. It was the strangest system, but it worked well for him.
Yeah, that sounds weird. Um, no, the hawk and trowel came from working with the dudes in Crested Butte, and they would only bust out the hawk and trowel when they would do that texture. And we would finish to like a level 3 sand, but we wouldn't even coat the angles. We would just pull them out, full wall texture. And I always felt like that was a really efficient texture. I liked it. And you could put it on nice and thin, and it looks kind of like smooth finish with some subtle lines. I mean, it's a great texture. I was just like, why couldn't you do that texture, add color, and then you're painting and texturing at the same time? That was the original idea.
It's a great idea.
It seemed like it at the time, but then, it's not as easy as just doing one coat. Well, okay, you have to do because there's going to be holidays, especially going over a painted surface. I didn't realize you could go right over a painted textured surface. I had to do all this vetting of the products. So I got pretty knowledgeable about what you can get away with joint compound, you know?
Yeah. You got to be careful though. I did one. It was for a family friend. It was plaster, and I put Durabond over it,
Okay.
and for some reason it didn't stick. They sent me
And,
pictures. It
okay.
fell all over their kitchen table, their couches, everything. Just Durabond chunks. So
Crazy.
yeah,
I've never had Fresco Harmony, and this is ready mix, so fail over plaster, but I think it's the glue in the ready mix. It sticks to like almost anything. I only
yeah,
had one job over wood paneling, and they must have had some kind of weird oil that they used back in the 70s on this wood paneling. But I did Fresco Harmony on the whole wall, and it starts to crack and then bubble off the wall. And so I went through, scraped the whole thing, primed it, did it again, and it failed again. And that's the only, and then we took the wood paneling off and we hung. quarter inch over everything and then refinished it. But that's the only time that I've had the Fresco Harmony fail over even wood paneling.
I've had quickset fail a number of times. I've never had joint compound fail. You know, I used heavy
Right.
all-purpose on that job where everything fell off. I just used green lid,
Yeah.
sanded it with a vacuum sander, and it came out nice. There was some
Yep.
pinholes in there, but it came out very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. Green lid has a lot of glue in it. It's really strong. And you can
I,
use green lid for Fresco.
yeah,
Um, I just don't because it's heavier.
yeah, I don't like working with it. Out here in Montana, they got all these lightweight ones. They got taping light and everything. And I've made the change. It's so much
Yeah.
easier, especially with the bazooka. Huge difference running the yellow taping light versus the all-purpose.
Do you use USG?
Yeah, I use USG. Now in Pennsylvania, they used to have Proform. I loved Proform. Out here, they have USG and Hamilton. Not a big fan of the Hamilton.
Okay.
Uh, USG's okay. Like I said,
Yeah.
Proform is my favorite.
Yeah, I don't mind the USG. It's all
It's
right.
okay.
It's just more readily available. People would ask why I use the USG. And so if I'm doing a job on the East Coast, I can use Blue Box +3, and I know that my color is going to be consistent from East Coast to West Coast, and they sell it in Home Depot. So you can get that color consistency from one side of the country to the other and into Canada. So that's
But
why,
depending on where you go, there's a chance you might only be able to get +3 in buckets. You might not be able to get
correct.
boxes.
Yeah.
And I miss mud coming in buckets. I am not a fan of these boxes because
Yeah.
buckets they get scarce out here, and your tile guy will use your bucket and get cement in it. And then you have to fight him. Then you're
Yeah.
fist fighting. You know, it's a whole ordeal.
Yeah.
Um,
I
so
buy industrial buckets from the paint shop. They're like $5 a piece and they're badass. The cheap ass white buckets will break out. The bottom will break. They don't like holding mud because they're
yeah,
thin.
when you mix it, you'll get those little like plastic hairs in them too if you're using cheap buckets.
Well, that depends too on your beater. Like that boomerang ripped the shit out of my bucket. I did a contest where I tried out 5 different mixers, and the level 5 and the sheetrock brand won. And I use the
I,
level 5.
I like the level 5. It leaves like a swastika in the mud, but it
Yeah.
mixes.
Yeah, aside from leaving a swastika and being a bitch to use, it's a really good mixer.
I don't think it's a bitch to use, but it is a bitch to clean for
No,
sure.
to clean, sorry, to
Yeah.
clean. It has less resistance, less drag on your drill. And I mean for color, it just sucks it right down in, mixes it
It's
quick.
so fast compared to
Yeah.
other mix.
Yeah. Very cool. I liked it. Good wrap up, Chris. Good tail end wrap up. And it's great to finally see you in person and we can have a conversation. You can find pictures of Chris's work at what's your Instagram handle?
So my Instagram handle just has pictures of my tattoos on it. You can't find any work on there.
Okay,
Uh,
don't go there. Or
Facebook,
maybe people want to see your tattoos. Who knows?
I mean,
Bam.
got a little bit. But yeah,
That's
no,
pretty
it's
sweet.
so I'm on Facebook, Chris
Okay.
Bush. Um,
Okay.
I'll have to get my Instagram rolling. I'm not a very good millennial. I'm not very good with technology.
Yeah.
Um,
That's okay.
I'll have to figure
Uh,
it out.
Throw some of those Fresco Harmony pictures up there too. And I have seen some of your auto body work pictures. Those are pretty cool as well.
Thank you. I wish I had my phone from high school. I have a lot of paying jobs on that one because that's when I did most of them. Uh,
Mm,
but I don't have that phone anymore.
okay. All right. Well, yeah, post up what you got, man, on especially on Instagram. Start throwing up some of your Fresco, some of your drywall projects. It doesn't matter, you know?
So on Instagram, it's Chris Bush 215. I think
Okay.
it's all lowercase, Chris Bush 215. I'll put some stuff on there.
Well, I sure have enjoyed talking to you finally, and we'll, yeah, I'm serious about the truck thing. I'd rather bring my truck up there and have some fun with you and play around and paint, than take it somewhere here. It's so expensive to paint a truck, anyways. It's like that
Let's do
seems like
some custom stuff to it. Let's do some
That pearl,
Let's do
that
some
pearl would be
monopolizer,
cool. Yeah.
some pearl and the clear. We'll do some cool stuff.
Yeah, that'd be fun. All right, sir. You have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk soon.
All right, Nick, have a good one.
All right, bye, bud.
Bye.
Special thanks to Chris Bush for being with us on the Drywall Podcast. Today, you, sir, will get a swag bucket soon, and I'm anxious to see how your drywall career progresses. And I look forward to meeting you in Montana soon. The Drywall Podcast can be listened to every Friday on your favorite platforms, such as Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and also YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us on the Drywall Podcast today. I sincerely appreciate it. If you have questions for me about anything that you hear on the Drywall Podcast, you can reach out to me directly at info@frescoharmony.com, or feel free to call me directly at 505-400-9313. I hope you all have a beautiful weekend, and remember, keep drywalling.